Types of interactive documentaries. Bill Nicholas in 2001 identified 6 modes of documentary, but the classification is based on the classical documentary form. These modes are expository mode, reflexive mode, poetic mode, observational mode, participatory mode, expository mode, and performative mode. Though the case of interactive documentary is different due to its interactivity and the technology, this perspective can be applied to understand iDocs to some extent. According to Chandra Godenji classified the iDocs from the modes of interactivity, which are conversational, hypertext, participatory, and experimental. Now, let us discuss in detail. Conversational. In this, the narration of the story is in conversational mode. The user can interrupt the narration and can take it to another perspective. The choices which a user makes indicates the subjective behavior towards the content narration. This also indicates what kind of reality does a user wanted to explore or exposed. Next is a hypertext. Initially, these documentaries use text, but later on audio visual material is also used. Here, the role of user is limited to navigation or can explore further. User cannot contribute to the narration or new perspectives of the story. The users has less choices to create their own path. They are mostly navigating in a fixed path of storytelling. The next is participatory. In this kind of documentary, the author and the user will collaborate and co-create the content. Author might give a foundation and it can be built by the user. Direct engagement of the user is more experimental and immersive learning. The other one is experimental. In experimental documentaries, users need to participate, but it is not necessarily participatory, but the user needed to participate in the process. For example, the documentary Clouds is an interactive documentary, experimental in nature, and it is an art documentary. This can also be called as computational documentary. Now, let us discuss an overview of the interactive documentaries. Now, interactive documentaries are produced every day throughout the world abundantly, but here I would like to mention a few who are pioneered in the use of interactive media and also award winning. The National Film Board of Canada, one of the pioneers in bringing elaborate and technologically sophisticated interactive documentaries. To mention a few, Katrina Sijek's Out of My Window is an interactive 360-degree documentary, talks about the city life and individual stories from residents from different ethnicities from the apartment in the city. She also authored High Rise, 1 Million Tower, a 3D reimagined city and space. The other project is Cupo, is an interactive project mostly based on audio recordings from the women and men who are sterilized forcefully in Peru. Alisa Lebo's documentary is a creative archive with interactive architecture of visual material on Egypt's revolution in 2011. Another project, Journey to the End of Coal by Samuel and Abel, is about every life and struggle of the coal miners in China. Jefferson and Brawl's Prison Valley will give the users a chance to understand the prison and penal system in Colorado. Pirate Fishing by Al Jazeera is an iDoc pushes the user to investigate the illegal fishing in Sierra Leone. Last Hijack is a documentary by Tommy and Femke. It is a story of pirates in Somalia told in an interactive way. Refugee Republic is another documentary, shows the life of refugees in northern Iraq. And another one is Gaza Sidrat, is a project to find the voices from Israel and Palestine. Next, we will discuss about the news organizations using the interactive mode. Interactive storytelling formats are quickly adopted by the news organizations globally. The rise of news web portals and presence of online newspapers, television channels, websites, etc. makes it imperative to explore innovative ways to tell their stories effectively, while giving the reader more experience of the news. In India, the Quint has been presenting 360-degree video stories like Gandhi Ashram and Rohingya settlement and extra. The other organizations like Scroll, Wire, News Laundry, Catch News are teaming up with the multimedia stories, but yet to catch up with the technology. Many other big organizations have switched to the interactive documentary mode. Al Jazeera Interactive offers feature stories on voting pattern across the globe, Tanuan typhoon in Philippines, coding like a girl, flying to Hajj, or some of the documentaries to mention. Immersive journalism is now practiced by various news organizations like New York Times, CNN, BBC. The mapping of waters and constituencies are presented with the interactive and by visualizing the data. The documentary on clouds over Sidra is a VR video by Aurora and Chris created an empathy wave among policymakers. This depicted the story to know the situation in a Syrian refugee camp. Here, the audience could able to experience the space and the emotion. According to Chris Milk, in the future, you will be the character, the story will happen to you. The documentary was funded by United Nations organizations. This shows not only news organizations, but also aid organizations, individual institutions, corporate advertising is also using this structure and format for narrating their stories. Through the use of new media technologies for news media will push the boundaries for the audience understanding and experience. Now, let us discuss software platforms for interactive documentary. Interactive documentary needs to be hosted on a digital platform. There are dedicated web-based softwares are there to create and host the iDocs. To name some of them, Clint.net, Helico.com, rapmedia.com, twinery.org, cowboard.com, depthkit.tv. With the help of HTML coding also, iDocs can be developed. Mostly digital platforms like Clint, Echo is formerly known as the Interlude, is a publishing platform. You need to use different softwares for video editing, photo editing, as well as creative interactive menus embedded in the content. Cowboard is one of the simplest platform available for every day. Thousands of authors used to post their stories. Now, due to the growth of other platforms, the archive of the stories are only available. Getting a subscription from these platforms as a student is cheaper, but it will only offer you basic features. For example, Clint offers both students as well as institutional licenses. Everything happens in these platforms online, and your iDoc will be curated, archived on a cloud server. With this, you can keep exploring the stories further and add more sub-stories to it. There are no limit of expanding branches of storytelling and no final version of your documentary.